This thing on. Hey, this thing on. Hey, good morning. Good morning. How you doing? Um, if you waking up right now, or you probably heard the news yesterday, U.S. Capitol. You know what? These folks going. I'm kind of mixed on it, but these folks gonna have to understand something. You can't go up here doing certain things in certain places. And that's the name of this video today: responsibility and accountability. We're going to jump in that to a little bit because what happened yesterday was neither responsible or accountable at all. This gentleman, and I don't know his name, and I get the name later, decides he wants to drive into the barricades of the U.S. Capitol. Decides he just want to, you know what? I'm going up in there. You know, if you've been in around D.C. of lately, there are barricades around the U.S. Capitol building. Um, Concertina wire, big old gate around there, whatever. Just because some silly people who they haven't rounded up all of them yet decided they wanted to have a little fun on January 6th. Well, this particular gentleman thought he was going to do the same thing they did January 6th. So he decides to run into a barrier and strike two Capitol police officers. Well, he ran the vehicle into the barrier. Then he jumps out the barrier. He jumps out the vehicle with a knife, charging. And what's the saying? You never bring a knife to a gunfight. And the U.S. Capitol Police laid him down. They laid him right on down. Now, I think one of the police officers died um, in the act, and my prayers go out to his family. My prayers go out to the guy that jumped out the car with the knife, because he definitely wasn't in his right mind. Them spirits was telling him, "Shit the gate, ram the gate, ram the gate," instead of listening to the people or the person he should have been listening to. He probably would be alive today. Because if you didn't listen to the right people, you probably, man, I ain't driving into that doggone gate. I'm not doing that. No, 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 not me, bro. After all that stuff going on, nah, not me. I'm gonna stay home. But he didn't. And to all you people who I don't know who's watching me or who's watching me or not watching me, if you sending out these little emails to the so-called nude sites, stop it. Stop it. If you want to watch my videos and be informed, then do that. But don't watch my videos if you're going to do some old stupid stuff like that. I ain't got time for that. All right? That's just a PSA for you. Don't do it. Because you put your name out there. And I find out who you are. Stay off my channel with that bull. Go on somebody else's channel with that bull crap. Anyway, he drives up to the gate. He jumps out with a knife, and they had guns. Now, I say to myself, and then my wife and I were talking about this, what if the Capitol Police would have like opened fire on those insurrectionists when they stormed the Capitol? What if they would have said, "Oh, okay, that's what y'all want? and gave them what they want, what would have happened? We don't know. What if Eugene Goodman, who was the Capitol police officer, who was on film, he was running, he was make sure that these fools wasn't trying to get inside the Senate chamber. What if Eugene Goodman, instead of getting on his radio, would have pulled out his 9 or pulled out his Glock and start capping people? First thing would have been said about Eugene Goodman, that was violent. He didn't have to do that. Those people were peaceful protesters. They were just upset about the election results. Really? These same people that stormed the Capitol, wasn't nothing peaceful about them. They killed an officer, beat him with a fire extinguisher. Another officer lost his eye, and over 180 officers were injured in this fray. One DC police officer was pinned by a door. Pinned. Now, you had one Capitol police officer who let somebody know, you come up here wrong, guess what? You're going to get laid down. Yeah, she was an Air Force veteran, but now she's a deceased Air Force veteran. And the reason why I want to talk about this, because people don't really understand responsibility and accountability. You have to be responsible for everything that you do. And you got to be accountable as well. I mean, the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, little history lesson, guarantees the basic rights of all Americans. And with those rights comes responsibility and accountability. Case in point, the Sixth Amendment, the right to the speedy trial. Well, the courts, they're within their rights with saying, okay, we're going to get you the fastest trial we can, which is available. That's going to be the fastest time, whatever, that's available on the docket. If the docket says we can get you 2 weeks from now, fine. If we can get you 6 months from now, fine. We can get you a year from now. Give you a chance to get your defense together and everything else together, fine. But it's your responsibility to show up to court on time and ready to go. It is your thing to do the right thing when you're ready to go. That's how it works. Okay? A lot of people are mad and angry at why this man had to die. You got people running around there saying this man was a freedom fighter. No, he wasn't no freedom fighter. I'm just going to be honest. He was being foolish. He wasn't no freedom fighter. The man who spoke in the Masonic Temple in Memphis, Tennessee in 1968, on this day, he was a freedom fighter. He was a freedom fighter. I'm quite sure you know who he was. Man who was killed in the Audubon Ballroom on February 21st, 1965, he was a freedom fighter. And he was responsible enough to say, hey, look, this ain't gonna fly. And he was accountable enough to know that, hey, what I say might not resonate with everybody else. But with that court thing, you're responsible of getting your behind the court. If you go on a speedy trial, get your stuff together so you're ready to go to court. That's being accountable. You don't have to write, your lawyer can't come in there and say, well, we're not ready. We don't know if we ever going to be ready. Too bad. If it's time for you to go, it's time for you to go. Like we have the lawyers in the Derek Chauvin case saying that, well, we don't know we're going to be ready. And the judge said, you're ready. Go ahead, that. It's time. Whatever you got, bring it. Responsibility. Derek Chauvin had a responsibility to the community of Minneapolis of doing his job the right way. If he had done his job the right way and properly arrested George Floyd and detained him, none of this would have went on. If you watch the whole tape of that arrest, everybody wants to pull up George Floyd's past. Well, he had an opioid addiction. He was violent. He was this, he was that. There's nothing violent about that man. If you got 4 police officers there with law enforcement training, they could have handled that situation. Very easy. Very, very easy. If you have him apprehended, you have him in cuffs, you put him in the car, you take him down to the station. The man told you several times, hey man, look, I ain't gonna do nothing. The man was cooperative. If you watch those tapes, that man was cooperative with those police officers. He didn't try to run. He didn't try to fight them. He was like, hey, They put him in the car, they took him out of the car. They put him in the car, they took him out of the car. And finally, Derek Chauvin said, you know what? We're going to rough this dude up. Basically. Some of the police tactics that were used were outlawed. They don't use those anymore. Most of the time when a police officer makes an arrest, he notifies his supervisor, okay, Sergeant so-and-so and so, okay, made this arrest, da-da-da-da-da, And usually the supervisor on the scene to make sure that, okay, everything is good to go. They had testimony from a former supervisor, police officer yesterday. Day before yesterday, I believe. I think it was on Thursday. Where he said, about police procedures. We're talking about being responsible. You have 4 other officers there who could have said, hey, man, yo, he down. He can't breathe, man. Move your knee off his neck. Get off him. And big up to the the MMA wrestler who testified and said, hey, man, didn't take all that. If he's down and he's not posing a threat, hey, let him go. Let him up. Put him in the car. You see, responsibility, as my father used to tell me, is a long word with a very short meaning. So is accountability. If you can't be responsible enough to handle certain things, and you can't be accountable enough to do certain things, then, there's no excuse for what happened. The same thing that will happen on January 6, 2021. There was no reason for that. Former President Trump knew what was up. To me, he's responsible. And he's accountable. And he should be held accountable, which they did. And they went with that fake impeachment thing. And I told you, the impeachment ain't nothing but an indictment. If the other group don't want to prosecute, it don't mean anything. Don't waste the taxpayers' time and money on doing something that ain't gonna come out fruitful. Because a lot of those folks that were that sat there and watched that or was present when those folks attacked, they were like, they didn't do that. You know, he's not gonna claim responsibility for those folks. He's not gonna do that. He's not gonna hold himself accountable, knowing that he was. That's not my opinion. That's my fact. He knew what those folks were going to do. He knew those folks was all riled up for him. He knew it. He sat back at the White House, and I guess a little private area of the White House, sat back laughing, enjoying it, watching it like he was watching the game on TV. No responsibility, no accountability. Put his hands up. We have folks who I call them the Second Amendment warriors. Who say, you can't take my guns. No, nobody's going to take your guns. If you're responsible with your firearms, if you're accountable with your firearms, why should I take them? But if you're one of these people who have a firearm in your house and you leave it in a place where it shouldn't be, and you just walk around all willy-nilly, and then one day something happens with that firearm, then that's who I'm talking to. You. They have a commercial on firearm safety where the parents, they're both talking to each other, they're chatting with each other, or FaceTiming one another, something like that. And they wonder where they see the ammunition sitting out, and they wonder where the gun is. And they're looking around for their son. Cameron, where are you, Cameron? Cameron, where are you? Then you see at the end, almost at the end of the commercial, there's, I guess that's the bathroom door, and the door is closed. Cameron, where's the gun? Oh my God. When several states have enacted certain laws in the handling of firearms, I know Maryland has one. You have to have a gun lock. If you have a firearm in your house, you have to have a gun lock. That's law. It has to be locked, and then you have to store it in a place where only you can get to it. Yeah, you can get your concealed permit, which I'm going to go ahead on and do, and get your gun, but you got to be responsible. I know I got to be responsible because I got a 3-year-old godson. And Lord knows I don't want him to be hurt or anything else, because that's my responsibility. When he's with me, he's my responsibility. I'm accountable for him. Anything happens to him, then yeah. So I wouldn't leave a firearm around him. He wouldn't even know where it was. But people don't understand that with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man, Cliff Robinson, telling Tobey Maguire. When you have that, it got to resonate in your head that, you know what, I might want to be a little bit more responsible for what I do. If you're going out to the club and you know you're going to have you a few drinky drinks, don't drive. You got Uber, Lyft, and you got another one, Veo. You got all these driving services that can drive you safely to the club and drive you safely back home. That's for all you athletes that want to turn up in the club. Y'all know who you are. If you know you're going to drop some distilled spirits, let somebody drive you. Get your designated driver. Make sure you take care of your designated driver. I ain't talking about load him up or her with no drinks, but I'm talking about if they got some meals or something like that, buy them something. Hook them up at IHOP or something. Make sure that they ain't got nothing. Get them some water or soda or something. But be responsible. The responsibility that the state gave you when they entrusted you with a driver's license, saying, okay, we trust that you can operate a vehicle safely. That's why they gave you a license. But if you're not responsible enough when you get behind the wheel of that car to not be up under the influence of anything and have a clear mind when you driving down the road and you're not accountable, you like, hey, I don't care. I ride along my ride. Well, you pay the price or whatever the price you need to pay. It's simple as that. As adult humans, we're supposed to be responsible and accountable for everything we do. Don't make an excuse talking about, well, man, I was just, a little tired when I got. Well, if you was a little tired when you got on the road, then like I said, get somebody else to drive for you. If you have a gun, then lock that gun up. If you ain't using it right now, lock it up. If you ain't going to the range to, let off some shots, lock it up. Be responsible. If you're not using it to defend yourself, then you don't need it. If you are an American worker, pay your damn taxes. You're responsible. That's your duty. Don't be trying to slip, slide, and get over. You know what I'm saying? As we celebrate this season, Jesus was responsible and he was accountable for everything that he did. Everything. He was so responsible enough that he stayed on that cross until some things got settled. And he was accountable enough to get up in 3 days and say, yeah, I told you. Can't take me out. So, folks, do me a favor. Be responsible. Be responsible for what you have to do and be accountable. If it happens, say, hey, man, that's my bad. I messed up. So enjoy yourselves. Enjoy the Easter celebration, the resurrection celebration. Enjoy yourself. And just know this, he is risen. See you later.